I talked a lot in the last video that I recorded about the idea that I was going to be depressed or in some sense mentally ill for the rest of my life. And I think partly because of how quiet I had to speak in the video due to the fact that other people were sleeping in the other room and the fact that I wasn't in the best state of mind as I was recording the video, led me to word things, or at least present things, in a way that came off a lot more negativistic than they are in reality. That isn't to say that the statements that I said were necessarily untrue, but more so the way in which I presented them could lead people to conclusions that weren't necessarily intended upon my wording of those statements. And so, when I talk about the idea of being depressed for the rest of time, where I tend to go back thinking about my history of mental health problems, is a conversation with one specific therapist I had when I was 16 years old. She had been depressed for her entire life, and she had been taking the same two medications for it for the last 20 years, and applying many of the same coping skills that she had learned over, the last couple decades or whatever. And she had attempted to kill herself a few times. She almost never told anyone that who was her client because she didn't want to talk about herself. But she told me because she thought I was a special case, that I was different than the other people who she had spoken to. And the essence of what she told me was that very often these things simply do not go away. The feeling can be managed, but in some sense it's always going to be there. And when she told me this, when she told me that I was going to be suffering in one sense or another for the rest of my life due to this thing going on in my brain, it felt tremendously liberating to know that. Because here I was trying all these different doctors, uncertain about what my future would be, not knowing why I was doing anything, and after all of this time, multiple suicide attempts, living life on the edge of things, I was just told point blank what my future would be. There was nothing to be unsure about, there was nothing to be hung up in the air. I just knew that no matter what happened, that was going to be the outcome. And as she told me that, I began to think, how is it then that I am going to live with this? And therein lies coping, one of the fundamental aspects of therapy. People online, they tend to call things copes, as if they're a negative thing, when they're the very opposite of a negative thing. Coping is the way that mentally ill people stay alive and get positive things out of their lives for what they are. There's nothing wrong with coping. It's just how people like us stay alive. It's like saying if someone has a respirator, or if they have to use what are those things that people with asthma use? An inhaler, to stay alive, or they have to get a needle in them because of diabetes. I don't know exactly how that works. And you tell them, hey, you over there. It's pretty pathetic you have to do that, bro. It's not so cool that you have to do that, bro. Why? That's a cope, bro. Why are you using that insulin? Why are you using that inhaler? That's a cope, bro. You probably wouldn't say that, because that would be fucked up. And we have these physical representations of how those people are kept alive, because it's a physical health problem. Well, not physiological health problem. And so we can tell, there's a physical representation of what's going on in the body that we have that can directly be communicated to us through just sight. We can look at the person using the inhaler and go, oh, okay, they have a breathing problem. Oh, okay, they have an imbalance in the way that they process certain substances in their body or whatever. We can understand those things because it's a body problem. But when it's psychological, when it has to do with the brain, it's more abstract. People don't quite understand why mental health disturbances exist, and especially a lot of people online who identify as mentally ill, a lot of them haven't even been diagnosed. or they refuse to see a therapist. They just sort of say that they're depressed or that they're bipolar or anxious or whatever without having a diagnosis. And they almost revel in the fact that they have that mental illness because they can tell people online, "Oh, I have a mental illness, guys. It's so cool. I'm like you. Let's be sad together." And then when someone with a genuine mental illness comes around, they don't understand a single word that they're saying, because at this point they've been LARPing this entire time, and they don't know any of the things that they're saying. They're just saying them. And then, when someone comes around with these actual problems, they just project onto them all these negative things that in turn make them worse. And so there's a very real problem. There's a very, very real problem with the way that we talk about these things on the internet and elsewhere, where the way that mentally ill people are kept alive is considered to be like a weakness. In my mind, the fact that people who are dealing with constant psychological pain are able to stay alive is a testament to tremendous strength. The fact that they're experiencing the pain is not a testament to weakness. The fact that they're staying alive is a testament to strength, because most likely you have not lived a day in the shoes of someone who always feels that way. It hurts a lot for people to feel that they should be dead, that being alive doesn't have much merit for them, etc. So, coping is the way that we get our engines going. It's the way that we keep them up to code, keep them from breaking down. It's how we stay alive. So when I say that I'm depressed, that my doctor says that I'm going to hallucinate forever, that, what was the joke she used? She said, what's the difference between true love and schizophrenia is that one lasts forever, whereas the other one fades away. And of course, the one that fades away was referring to true love, i.e. it doesn't exist. And the one that stays around forever is schizophrenia. So, when I hear these things, that was a different doctor, but like when my therapist was saying that I was going to be depressed forever, the only thing you can really do is manage the pain. It's be able to keep yourself distracted from it. Like, you doing these videos or playing video games, watching films, listening to music. Doing these things are all distractions on some level to keep me from thinking about pain. And I've gotten to the point where doing meditation and just laying down in bed alone with my thoughts has actually been very helpful, where before the thoughts used to be so traumatic for me that I couldn't have any waking moment of the day without sound. I just had to constantly be hearing things and constantly be stimulated and distracted, or else my brain would go crazy. Nowadays, I actually like to spend many hours meditating or just laying down, but I had to work up to that point where those things become relaxing for me now, but they weren't before. It's a sign of progress to be able to do something like that. But the things that I do here on this YouTube channel, for example, it's a way to get the frustrations out. It's a way to turn the pain that I experience into something creative, to have a consistent form of productivity that I can look to be able to say that I have something, that this is something I can do that I can feel proud of and can enjoy doing. And there's all these little ways. That we're constantly managing the pain. The pain doesn't ever truly go away. It doesn't just disappear. When you've been mentally ill for as long as I have, and it has been over a decade now, it doesn't just disappear. But the hopeful thing, and what I hope you find hopeful in this video, is that while things are very bad now, they don't always have to be that way. They can still improve. And your life as it is now can be better in the future as you continue managing that pain.